So today I want to talk about my thoughts on playing hand traps in Mermail, going first variants, post Echo. Should you play them? Should you not play them? Are they good? Are they bad? If you want a too long didn't watch, I will say it is definitely player preference. If you want to play more offensive or defensive, playing defensive means you'd obviously want to play hand traps. Offensive means you want to play more extenders. And depends on the format. If there's specific matchups or specific cards that require you to play a hand trap, specifically like back when Colossus was unbanned and Thunder Dragons could very easily summon Colossus without even ever like looking at their hand, basically, you would definitely want Gamma Seal, which isn't technically a hand trap, for the sake of this video is considered a hand trap. You would want that in your hand, in your deck specifically, so that way you could play against Colossus going second. So with that out of the way, a quick little intro. Hand traps. They're very good, generic cards. One of my favorite things about hand traps is they provide you with an interruption if you're going second, because 50% of the time in a game 1 situation, you are not going to go first. They're not as common in combo decks typically. Like, sure, there are combo decks that play hand traps, but if they do, it's usually a rather low hand trap count. You look back at like Goki, they played a couple of hand traps mainly because they were level 3 extenders for the deck, which was just bonkers. But they are more common in those slower type decks, those control decks you would see, like I guess Eldritch would play them, Sky Strikers when they were around would play them, Altergeist plays them, and decks that are sort of in between combo and those little back row decks like Salamangreat would obviously play a lot. Salamangreat is probably the best example because Salamangreat can play like 20 hand traps and still be fine. Anyway, laid out here from Dragoons to 1-for-1, I have pretty much what I would consider like a Mermail core, so to say. This is assuming you want to play under Nibiru. If you want to play under Nibiru, you need a Abyss Spike for most situations. And you play Halki Firebrax, meaning you would need a target, in this case Jet Synchron. I'll get to why I put Jet Synchron over Fishborg in a second. So, that would mean that everything after the 1-for-1 is pretty much just flex. What do you want to play? It could be extenders, it could be hand traps, it could be the Mecha Phantom Beast engine, the Swap Frog engine, Gen X Undyne if you want to play it. This is just what I have, what I would play if I were to save 5 slots for hand trap. So I would play the Swap Frog engine because I think it's one of the better extensions in the deck, and it allows you to get a totally awesome out more consistently. And if you get a totally awesome out early, that's just really good going first, because that means you could play through hand traps and Nibiru is a lot easier. Moria Agree to fix your hand, and Minstrel, which is going to be a common in Echo, thankfully. Very good card. Arguably not a staple, but as time goes on, we got to figure out more stuff, the deep sea stuff. This is pretty much more of a beta build, by the way, for post Echo, because Echo's not officially out yet, and there's no official tournaments yet. Anyway, we have 5 extra slots. These 5 slots would be reserved for hand trap / going second cards. Now, one thing I want to mention about Mermail really quickly. The deck, thanks to Halki Firebrax, has a lot of 1 to 1.5 to even 2 card combos if you wanted to lump Teus and stuff in there. Usually revolving around Neptibus with these 1 to 2 card combos. I think pretty much every single one revolving around Neptibus. Neptibus itself is a lot of 1 card combos or 1.5 card combos, Neptibus plus a water or Diva plus a water. There are 7 direct ways to get the Neptibus in this deck. You have your 3 Diva, your 3 Prince, and you have your 1-1-for-1 totaling for 7 cards. Now, if you have 7 cards in your deck, that is a 64% chance to open with one of these cards, which means you will have at least a 64% chance to have a Neptibus or a way to get to Neptibus in your starting hand. The reason why I say at least 64 is because if we look at a card like Dragoons, and Moray agreed, they could also technically get us to Neptibus as well. Moray Agreed is a bit more variance because you have to hard draw into it if you shuffle back waters, while Dragoons is rely on having, say, a Teus or having, say, a Deep Sea Minstrel in your hand in order to discard it and then search for the Neptibus. So that's why I say at least 64% of the time, meaning you can very consistently open with this card, and if you have hand traps in your hand along with a way to get the Neptibus, it really shouldn't interfere with you all that much. Now, the reason why there's 5 slots here is because if you play 5 hand traps in a deck, that means you have a 50% chance of opening with one of them in your starting hand going second. So that means you have a 50% chance of going second, in theory, assuming you win the die roll and choose to go first every time. And if you lose the die roll, your opponent chooses to go first every time. And you have a 50% chance of drawing one of your hand traps, which means you have a 75% chance of either going first or being second and opening a hand trap. So that would mean 25% of the time you will have a rather unfavorable outcome, although granted, Mermail is a deck that even if you're not playing a going second variant, you don't really struggle too much going second, whether you're playing hand traps or not. Obviously playing hand traps makes it a bit better, but it's not really needed. So just for an example, let's say the hand traps that we're playing, let's say we play 2 Gamma Seal, because Gamma Seal is also a water, so it can fulfill those Neptibus plus any water combos, which is really, really nice. And the thing I also like about Gamma Seal is, unlike most going second cards, or a lot of going second cards you would play in Mermail, It is also good if you draw it as your 6th card, while a card like Ash Blossom or Nibiru, if you draw them as your 6th card for turn and going second, they really don't do anything. So let's say we play these two, and then let's say we play 3 Ash. You know, this is just example. It could be anything. It could be Imperm. It could be Gamma if you really want, although I don't like that Gamma has to play the driver. It could be Super Polys if you play the Muddrag, which also allows you to play Insfusion in the main, which would provide Muddrag to be an extender / a going second card with Super Poly. Really up to you. Just for the sake of the video, let's say we're playing 2 Gamma Seal and 3 Ash Blossom, which is like one of the best generic hand traps that we ever had in the game. Also, one thing I want to mention about Nibiru, if you main it or side, you should definitely be doing at least one of those things, in my opinion, in any Mermail variant. If you also play Jurgite, sure, it's a spell trap negate, but it also has a cool first effect where you can activate the top 5 cards of your deck, and any rock monster you reveal, Nibiru being a rock, you can bounce a card your opponent controls back to the hand. That might not come up a lot. It is a little bit sacky, I guess you could say, because you have to reveal your Nibiru in your deck if you don't draw it, but it is something you should be aware of if you play this card going second, because that might come up and that might actually win you a game. I do want to also mention that if you play things like Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, any hand trap that's a monster that's not a water that requires you to discard it, the issue with them not being a water is you can't use Fishborg Launcher with them going second as easily, because let's say you go second, you drop an Ash on your opponent and it just ends their turn, and then you go and all your plays revolve around you summoning Halki Firebrax, but you want to play Fishborg Launcher and you can't use Fishborg Launcher's effect because you have a non-water engrave. That's why I have Jetstream on there instead. It doesn't really matter too much, but it is something to keep in mind. Sure, you can play both, but I would say Jetstream will be better if you play hand traps. So right now, I just want to actually shuffle the deck a bit, because I want to show you guys that if you play hand traps, sure, they can contribute to bricks, but as you can see, let's just shuffle it a few times. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No hand traps in the hand. That's a pretty decent hand though, because we have Neptibus plus an extender. If we keep doing it again, what do we get? Okay, so here, perfect example. We have the Ash Blossom. We also have Neptibus plus any water. So if we only play 5 hand traps, the chance of really breaking on the hand traps isn't that high. Although one thing that is a bit unfortunate is Mermail decks kind of have, and combo decks in general is really an issue with them, is there's a lot of really bricky cards you have to play. Now, luckily with this particular build, there aren't really any hard bricks. When I say a hard brick, I mean a card like Genix Undyne or Gemknight Garnet, which if you draw them means other cards in your deck are literally useless, because of course if you draw your one of Genix controller, your Genix Undynes, you can't even really use their effects. While this deck, you might have some quote-unquote bricky cards, like Jet Synchron can get you a brick, Ronin can be a brick, Lapis Dragon can be a brick, but at least with Jet Synchron you can summon it from your hand off Halki Firebrax. With Ronin, at least it's still a water, although Lapis Dragon actually is pretty much just a straight brick unless you shuffle back with Moray, to be honest. But basically what I'm trying to say is, if you really want to play hand traps in Mermail, as I do some like random test hands here, the first 5 cards will be the hand, of course. If you really want to play hand traps in Mermail, that's the wrong one. If you really want to play hand traps in Mermail, I don't think it's a bad idea. It does contribute to bricks, but as you can see, you know, we're really not getting too many bad hands. You don't really see multiple hand traps in many hands, which is fine. And we're pretty much getting all like playable hands. Like Neptibus plus an Ash Blossom is just awesome to have. And look, that Diva plus Ash Blossom plus Call by the Grave, like Diva plus Dragoons and Minstrel, like that's just really good at any variant. And then look, we have Ash and Gamma Seal and Neptibus and any water. Like this is really good, and we drew 2 hand traps. So basically, player preference, work the numbers out. That's a really important thing I want to stress. I see a lot of people that say, oh, I play 2 of this card because I don't want to draw it, and then I play 3 of this card because I want to draw it. And then if you work out the numbers, like it just doesn't really work out. So work out the numbers, work out the ratios, test your deck. That's very important too. Test your deck, whether it's test hands, dueling book, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, aiming your webcam at your desk and playing against your friend over Discord because we can't really leave the house anymore. Whatever you want to do, just make sure if you're building your Mermail deck, you know what the pros and cons are to playing every single card, and you're not too overprepared for one situation and too underprepared for any other situation. So hopefully this video made sense. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, in the comments down below what your opinion on hand traps are. I know a lot of people, they have the mindset of you have to play hand traps because you're always going first. But at the same time, the hand traps can make your deck a little bit less explosive, because you may notice we're pretty much not playing any extenders, any 1-card extenders at least, because the only real extender we have is like Swap Frog and Taze if they count. Either way, I'm rambling. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you all next time. Have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.